Well, I'm Daz. I'm the producer of The Drift, and it's been a while since the last sort of Drift diary, and that's probably because our world, our filmmaking world, has been turned upside down, almost literally. Don't know where to start with about it, really, to be honest. But in a nutshell, we had for want of a better expression, a surprise fire safety check, and that's changed everything here. And it's difficult to sort of do a diary about it because I've got several thoughts that worries about talking about it. The first one is that having talked about health and safety before and fire and safety and all the good things, now to become not so much a victim of it, but to have been caught with our pants down in a certain way might give you the sort of wrong impression about safety on set. The other worry is that it might give you the wrong impression about us and how we make our films and how how seriously we take health and safety. So perhaps if I just tell you what happened, and then you can perhaps extract the lessons that can be learned from that. Every production you do is you learn lessons. Sometimes you sort of slap yourself in the face and realise, yeah, I should have done that. Other times you think, well, that's something I'll take on board next time. So basically what happened was, we've been building the sets, as you've seen, etc., etc. And the landowners, we've kept them informed as to what we're doing. We've spoken to their health and safety representative to make sure that everything is going about it the right way. And there was an intention to speak to a fire officer. In fact, some effort was made to contact a fire officer to check that, from the fire point of view, make sure the exits are good and all the rest of it, to make sure that we're doing it right, we've got enough extinguishers and all those good things, and get the recommendations to make sure that we're good to carry on. And then one thing, distracts you and something takes over your life, you have to go do something else, and it gets pushed back and you make a couple of phone calls and no one answers, so you put it on the list of things to do. Right, okay, I'll go back to that and what have you, and then eventually it all catches up with itself. And what happened is that as part of our next stage of set building, we needed to get some more scaffolding in. So in order to do that, in order to put it somewhere, we had to move some of the set pieces into the centre of the area of the building, and that would block a fire exit, which we knew about, and the calculated decision was that we would do that knowing there'd be no one up here, there was no set building going on. So the evening before the scaffolding was due to come in, we moved all the set pieces across, and then in the next morning, the scaffolding would arrive, we'd put the scaffolding into position and move everything back. And that would be that. Something else that happened was, it was the weekend that the lighting you can see behind at the moment was installed, and I had an electrician guy come in and make sure it was all right, and he said that the loading was sound, but he wrote, in order to make the 110, because it's all on 110 to make it safer, you still need a transformer, so we marked a plug to say that was plugged into the 110 transformer, so everyone knew what it was for, and didn't unplug that one because that would switch off all the lights, and that would create a health and safety problem because people suddenly couldn't see. Just to switch off one light, it switches all the lights off. So we marked it up with 110, and then we round up the cables to a radius that the electrician said that would be fine, and then we put them on there as well. And the third thing that happened was a couple of our set builders came in and carried on building the night before the stuff was to move, and in their excitement spent all their time building and didn't clear up after themselves. So that left cables at the back of the ship all over the place. It left some stuff was still plugged in, all those little things. Now you add all those things together, so you've got a blocked fire exit, you've got cables tied up, wound up with a 240 volt plug with 110 written on it, which we knew what they meant, but it wasn't clear to anyone else that might see it. And then we had a set area that was covered in cables all over the place that hadn't been tidied up. So that's like a perfect storm, you could say. So what happened then, at the same time, in another part of the building, there was a Christmas function going on, and it just happened that their fire officer came up and had a look, and saw it, and was a bit dismayed, to say the least. And then the next morning, he came up in his proper capacity as a fire officer to have a proper look round, and do what he has to do, which was basically alert his representative, his boss. His boss came down, had a look at it, and eventually the word got round that I heard about it and thought, well, I better get up there and try and see what's going on. What can I do to explain myself, etc. And that was what I've been spending the last sort of 3 days now is dealing with that, and that's the lesson. Certainly, what you can take out of this was several lessons. One is you just can't take your eye off the ball. Don't ever take your eye off the ball, because if you do, it will bite you on the bum. It will bite you on the bum. It will bite you on the bum. Don't take your eye off the ball. You can be checked at any time, and you should be checked at any time. And make sure your crew don't get too blinkered into what they're doing and forget those things, because even when I came round and looked at some of the problems, like with the cables and stuff, even I couldn't get through it. I had to really watch my feet, and there's a definite threat there. You've got ladders, and you've got machinery and drills and saws, props, scaffold, all sorts of stuff. You've got to make sure it's clear. So we've got to take the hit for that. But the thing that then that happened was that in terms of the response that came back, we weren't just hit with you need to sort this out. It was a proper full-on, right, we're going to throw the book at you, basically. And this is where you as a producer have to really decide about how you're going to deal with this. Because, on the one hand, you can say, well, hang on a minute, you didn't tell me you were coming. Well, okay, they don't have to tell you that they're coming. You can say, well, it was just a one-off, we're just doing this bit, and, doesn't matter. The fact is, the day they came in was a day that looked like a pile of crap. That's what you've got to answer for. And the fact that they then throw the book at you and come up with all these recommendations that, to some might seem excessive, and even some of my crew were excessive. Some of the things they wanted us to do, we thought, well, that's a bit strange because there's all these other things already here. They want us to remove certain materials. But the point being is, first of all, is you are definitely on the back foot, and you have got to be receptive. Second thing is that they aren't just making it up. They are saying, you've got to do these things, etc., etc. And thirdly, if you're going to start arguing with them, if you're going to start challenging, and there might be cause to challenge some of it. For example, after their first inspection, another electrician, electrician came on as called by the fire officer, and when we went through it all and we explained all the bits, he was quite content and he understood what was going on. Now, what do I do with that? Do I go back to the fire officers and say, Yabu sucks? Of course not. That is not the situation here. The situation is that it's highly likely that my production is about to be shut down, and my priority is to keep it going. The fire officer's priority is to make sure that we are safe. So we've all got to make sure that we're achieving our aims here. So this is not the time to go back and say, yeah, it was okay. Because the fact is, we were caught with our trousers down. So you've got to play it nice, you've got to play it cool. And then the emails start flying around, right, we've seen this, and basically an official report is produced, sent to you, said, right, a compliance order, basically, you must do this, and this, and if you don't do it by this time, we're shutting you down. You have a whole list of things that we had to do. Some things we knew, obviously, like make sure the fire exits are clear. Well, we knew that. That was an educated decision. Whether it was the right decision or not is a separate issue, but we've made those calls, so we don't do that. More fire extinguishers, great, sorted, got that done. Pat test, all your kit. Some of it wasn't pat tested, so we've had all that done, all that sorted out, had that done today. And then all the other little things that we think we don't need. Do we need to do that? How are we supposed to do that? Life is going to be difficult. We've got all the materials that we were building the set with. We've had to take out basically, and only bring up the bits we want to build. Now that's very challenging because it's time to be creative now. We're trying to sort of decide how we want the whole thing to look. It's not a case of just building to a set shape. Now we just need to start filling it. That's going to make life difficult for us, but that's our problem to sort out, and we've done that too. And the emails that came in with all these orders, I have to reply back saying, absolutely, we will do this, we will do this, we will do this. And that's the way you've got to do it. You've got to demonstrate, whether you believe it or not, and the fact that I do, and I think health and safety and all that stuff is really important, because the last thing you want is someone injured on your production, because it will just screw the whole thing up. You just don't want it. Notwithstanding the fact it might be a friend or a family and all the rest of it, but it's just going to shut you down. So you just don't want it. You've got to make sure your emails are polite. Yes, we will encourage them. My emails back to these guys, and I was thanking them for coming on set. Absolutely, because it points out all the issues. So that was that. So today we've been spending all day preparing, clearing, cleaning, getting the fire extinguishers in position, pat testing, assigning pieces of set that we're allowed to keep on, because if bits are about to go on the set, then we can keep them here and we put them all in position to demonstrate that's where they're going to go. So from this morning, when morale was pretty low, in fact the whole week it has to have been an absolute low point. The boys and girls on set this week had a really tough time trying to sort this out, because you're taking little set pieces away. It's like you spent all this time finding these pieces and you've got to take them all away, and that's very soul destroying. It's for the right reasons. The timing could have been a bit better. The pace could have been a bit better. But that's whose fault's that? Well, it's got to be ours really at the end of the day, because we're the ones that are building. The fire officers are enforcing the rules that have been set. So now we say we've cleared it all, and it's happened just before Christmas, which is nice. In that we're now going to have a rest. This will be the last diary that I do for a while. It's good, and it does make assuming that the inspection when they come back next week, goes well, assuming that's all good, then yeah, it's going to be a nice little victory. Hopefully they were impressed, to be fair. They thought the whole thing looked really great. Once they got through the mess and looked at the cockpit and the set work that's happening behind and all that, they were like, this is awesome. This is really good. And in the emails too, they were saying, we appreciate what you're doing. It's a great thing you're doing, but you've got to be safe. You've got to do it right, and you need to consult with us and all that. So we're doing that. We've done that. Hopefully now we'll be able to, in the new year, with phase 3 of pre-production, which is just a set dressing, finalisation, getting the cast up to speed and rehearsals, etc., tech testing. We're actually in quite a good position. And notwithstanding the fact that all the set dressing is now in a building that's half a mile away, and we're going to have to work out what we're going to do and move it, etc. The whole area does look pretty clean and tidy, which does make for good for filmmaking. Good, nice clear area we can work in. So it's good too. So there we are. A very difficult week. Something that just hit us smack in the face, completely on the back foot. Yeah, we deserved a bit of a kick in on the one side of it. I think perhaps we've been hit a bit harder than we perhaps might deserve, but it's not our train set. You've got to play by the rules. And if you want your film to work, you'll come across this again and again and again, whether it's permission to use a location, to health and safety, to copyright. If you're stepping in someone else's toes or into their world, you have got to play it their way if you want your film to go ahead. And I think the example we've had this week has definitely shown that. There we go. So have a good Christmas and New Year and all that, and we'll see you in the new year. Good times.